Subscribe to our channel by clicking the subscribe button. Click the bell button and enjoy the latest uploads from our channel.
So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. P20 Pro 2 months later. The last time I've done a video on this was about 2 months ago, but today we're going to cover the triple lens beast here in the P20 Pro. And I just want to discuss what it's been like to use this and if this phone is still worth it. More people have become aware of Huawei as they're reaching over 100 million sales in their devices. Just on July 18th they crossed that, and their goal is 200 million this year. So they're approaching Apple territory when it comes to sales and smartphones. Yes, that's combined, but at the same time, Huawei is a force to be reckoned with when it comes to these smartphones these days. And this one, the only reason I'm covering is because it's been really a great experience. Let's begin with the body and the build. Now, my experience with the body and the build of this phone, by the way, if you're wondering, this is just a naked wrap skin I put around like as a bumper, and then I put one over the camera lens because I scratched that thing up a little bit by dropping it. So the Huawei P20 Pro to me has been an ergonomic dream so far. The Galaxy S9 Plus is one of its closest competitors, but you can just tell that it's a more compact body with a larger screen. So holding this phone in the hand and one-handing this device has been really a good experience for the Huawei P20 Pro. Now, in terms of its design, it does take some elements from, you could say, the iPhone 10 or the Essential phone with the notch. It does have the notch over here. The notch is much smaller though, and it can be hidden here for the P20 Pro. Now, a lot of people say that chin is just absolutely ugly for this device, but at the same time, there's no wasted space when you are using applications here like on the iPhone 10, where the keyboard has a huge wasted space. The chin actually serves somewhat of a purpose. You also have a very fast and efficient fingerprint scanner on here that's probably the fastest I've ever seen on a smartphone. It's not only fast, it does some neat tricks as well. But further discussing the design, the back has been a little bit slippery, but same like other phones. I don't like the fact that it gets all these fingerprints on the back. It still does that. And it has a little bit of a camera hump that does make it rock on the table, just like the iPhone 10. So that's a negative for this phone as well, especially up in this corner if you hit it there. So other than that, the design has been compact and very nice, almost dropped it, very nice for a very large screen, because it just has a more narrow body and just like a shorter feel than some of the other competitors that it's going up against. Like I say, like the Galaxy S8 Plus, the S9 Plus, the Note 8. These phones just don't feel as compact with such a large screen like the P20 Pro. So that's my take on design after 2 months. And in terms of the build quality, it's held up okay. I think the camera lens, like I said, that's why I have a little sticker on here, or a little skin scratched a little bit too easily, but it does hold up about similar to a Galaxy phone or an iPhone. So no issues too much when it comes to the build. The display though, let's get on to the display. Now the display to me, like I mentioned in prior videos, is kind of calibrated similar to an iPhone display. It's 1080p at its highest resolution, and this is not quite the top resolution you could get. You can get higher on a Samsung phone, for example, but it still looks very good. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this phone was made, or this display was made by Samsung. But you can see that over here in color eye comfort, let's go here, you do have a natural tone mode, which basically is like true tone for the iPhone, and you could change the color temperature to your perfect liking here with a little color wheel. So it does have quite a bit of customization when it comes to that display. On the whole though, the notch hasn't really gotten in the way too much, but Huawei is pretty forgiving, as you can go ahead and go into display, go into notch, and you can remove that notch if you don't like it, but it's a pretty small notch, so it doesn't really get in the way too much. Viewing angles are good, and YouTube, when you're watching YouTube videos, it doesn't cut off any of the YouTube video with the notch, or when you're reading, you don't get no cutoffs there as well. So flat display, no curves, so if you like a flatter display, you're gonna love the P20 Pros. And overall, I've enjoyed it. It's a pretty well calibrated display, and it's OLED, so it has nice rich colors. It's probably not the sharpest. That's all you got to wonder about there. If you want to tack sharp like 2K, 4K, any type of display like that, it's 1080p, so just keep that in mind, but that does help the battery life. Okay, so discussing the software, we're talking about EMUI 8.1 here. If we go to System and I go to System Update, you can see EMUI 8.1.0, so that's Android 8.1.0. EMUI is actually a little bit, less in your face than prior versions. This is the best version of the software ever, and they got quite a few features, like you can do gestures here. If you go into system navigation, you have different options for gestures. You also have the ability to theme this display out by going into the battery. Go into battery, and you have darken interface colors here. There is a lot of other things going on in accessibility down here, like a one-handed UI. You can shift the screen down. So there is quite a few enhancements that you're not going to see in like a stock Android device. You also have motion control, split screen gestures. So with that software and all those features, how is the performance? And I can gladly say it's been great. The Kirin 970 AI chip in here, and mostly the 6 gigs of RAM is, I think, what helped this phone perform extremely well. Now, I do have the developer options on, and I do have animations down, so you can see it's going to look a little quicker here. But on the whole, this phone pretty much flies through everything you can do. It's a proper flagship when it comes to speed. Now, I know they didn't come with like a later, newer processor, but Huawei's processor release cycle is not the same as a Snapdragon or Apple's. So you should be seeing a new processor for Huawei on their next flagship phone, other than the P20 Pro. Maybe the Mate 20 Pro will get this new processor, but this one still runs fantastic, and I think the addition of 6 gigs of RAM is what helped it to continue to have pretty good performance. The lag, there is really no lag. The only thing I've seen a couple times is the phone kind of just spazzed out for a minute or two on a few apps, but other than that, it's been great. And it has been getting a few security updates, and Huawei's been pushing out some software updates rather quickly for this phone. Not major ones, but I've been seeing updates coming at least 2 or 3 times, and I've only had the phone a couple months. So signs are looking good for Huawei supporting this phone, but we'll see how it goes in the longer term. Okay, so after 2 months, what are my thoughts on the P20 Pro's triple camera setup? Well, let's get into the camera and take a quick photo of maybe the iPhone 10 here. Number one, this phone has very fast focus and very fast shutter speed. So you're not gonna miss any moments on the P20 Pro. That's a guarantee. Also, you're not going to miss any low light shots because the night mode over here on the P20 Pro is phenomenal. It can really pull in the details when it's really dark out. So if you're really into low light photography, you're going to love the P20 Pro. Now, also you do have portrait mode and video mode here, and you have more modes over here, tons of modes. Not all of them work fantastic. For example, the video doesn't work great on this phone due to no OIS in 4K, but 1080p video looks stellar. We do have panoramic modes, monochrome. Monochrome is this third sensor here, and I don't think this sensor is necessary. I feel like they should have put a wide angle. That didn't focus. I think we should have put a wide angle on the P20 Pro instead of a monochrome, but hey, it does the trick. If you're into B&W black and white photos, it'll do the trick there. But going over here, you can see you do have 3D panorama, document scan, good food, and a lot of these modes just make this camera really versatile in the day-to-day. And the front-facing camera has a 24 megapixel sensor, and to me, it's just a little too soft. It kind of makes your face look like you're always on beauty mode with the P20 Pro here. But I'm not going to talk too much more about it. The hybrid zoom has been fantastic as well, going up to 5x. Best zoom I've seen on a smartphone. It does get a little bit shaky at the 5x, but you can still get some incredible detail at that 5x zoom. So if you're looking for one of the best photography phones, this is probably up there in the best, if not the best. But video, not so much as the best video. You do have some filters up here, some motion photos, which is kind of like live photos on the iPhone, and no expandable storage for these photos, but you do get at least 128 gigs here for the P20 Pro. Take a look at these samples, both front and rear, to decide if this is going to be, the camera setup that you want to go with in your next smartphone. So talking about battery really quickly, 4,000 milliamp hour battery, the same size is coming in the Note 9, but the Huawei P20 Pro has been fantastic on battery. There's not much to talk about here because it just works. You get through about 2 days if you're a light to moderate user. If you're a very heavy user, I think you can still get it pretty close to drained if you're a super heavy user by the end of the day. But you're never going to be like the phone shutting off on you. That just is not going to happen on the P20 Pro. So it is a champ in the battery department. You also have power saving modes, ultra power saving modes. You could drop that screen resolution to get even better battery life on this device. And the supercharger that charges through this USB-C port is the fastest I've seen on any smartphone. So if you're looking for very fast charging, supercharger on the Huawei devices is incredible. So keep that in mind. That's my take on the battery life. You can see it only dropped like a measly 3% throughout this entire video. And once it gets at 90 and below, it gets even slower and slower to go down. So really good battery life here for the P20 Pro. So moving on to the audio quality with the P20 Pro, it's got very rich sound.
It has a variable aperture, so it changes apertures in different lightings to get great low light. 6 gigs of RAM and an Exynos.
If we go ahead and go down into the notifications tray, you can see that we also have Dolby Atmos on this phone to make it even louder. But going ahead and putting this sideways,
9810 if you are in other region. This one is the Snapdragon 845.
you can see it does have a not as loud of a speaker over here at the top, but it does have one.
So pretty sizable battery here. So those are the keys.
So the one at the bottom is definitely more powerful and potent, but you're really going to enjoy listening to podcasts, videos, and music through these external speakers. They get loud, but they don't distort or get tinny. So good audio experience here for the P20 Pro. Okay, guys, so we've arrived at the final conclusion of this video. After 2 months, the Huawei P20 Pro, it's been like an iPhone 10 like Android experience, but you get the flexibility that Android has to offer with theming, changing, more options out on this phone. It doesn't have an app drawer, but you can put it in the settings. You can put in an app drawer if you would like. So overall though, very stable experience, surprisingly, considering that EMUI hasn't been the most stable software before. This is the best version of it yet, very quick. It's not the cleanest software, definitely not my favorite when it comes to just its overall looks, but the other things it offers are just incredible, like the amazing cameras on the rear. The compact form factor, the ergonomics of this phone is what really has sold me on this device, and the fact that it has a very fast face unlock and fingerprint scanner are nice additions to this phone. I don't like the fact that it rocks on the table. I don't like the fact that it gets, fingerprints all over the place, and I don't think it has the best design. I think that the chin could go away and make this an all-screen phone. That would be an even better design. And this Huawei logo right here didn't have to be there in my opinion, but it's there. But other than that, it's definitely giving Apple and Samsung a run for their money for one of the best flagships. It is very unique. It just feels different from using your typical Apple, Samsung, and Google experience. So if you're tired of those type of devices or you use those and you want something different, but you want something that's at that level, if not better in multiple areas, the P20 Pro will suffice. And that's my experience 2 months later with the P20 Pro. Not a perfect phone, but a really good offering from Huawei this year, and definitely a true flagship. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, be sure to drop them down below related to the P20 Pro. I will try to get back to as many as possible, and if I don't, many in the community will. If you found this video helpful, entertaining, enjoyable, click that like button for